Welcome to Deep Cuff Channel. Russian Air Force is trying to cope with the most difficult situation in its history. News from the front is evidence of the increasing intensity of air battles. Ukrainian army continues to defeat the Russians on all fronts. Putin is nervous. Military casualties in the Russian army are increasing unbelievably. Ukrainian drones lead critical strikes at the front. How does General Winter help the Ukrainian army? Russia is sending a lot of cargo planes to China. Why? NATO countries will never let Russia win the war. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba made important statements. We are starting our new video with the latest news from the front. According to the latest statements made by Serhiy Haidai, head of the Luhansk Oblast military administration, Ukrainian defense forces struck a Russian deployment point in Svardov, Luhansk Oblast. As a result of this attack carried out by the Ukrainian army, 20 soldiers of the Russian army were neutralized and 30 soldiers were injured. It is also said that the progress made by the Ukrainian army, especially in the Luhansk region, may soon grow even more. Especially in the Donbass, the defense forces are inflicting heavy damage on the Russians trying to attack the fortified positions of Ukraine. On the subject, the Ukrainian Air Assault Forces Command states that the Ukrainian paratroopers operating in the Bakhmut region captured the combat positions under the control of Russian troops and repelled all Russian troops in the region. Units of the 71st Separate Jaeger Brigade, which we mentioned earlier, are destroying the Russian troops one by one. It is already known that the Russians want to seize the city of Bakhmut. Russian army has mobilized all its means to seize this region. Although this region has been under intense Russian attack for about 2 months, the invincible Ukrainian army in the region does not take a step back. According to the breaking news, Russian missile and artillery units are trying to push the Ukrainian army to the west of the city by carrying out a total of 9 missiles and 50 artillery attacks on the Bakhmut region. Ukrainian army was able to neutralize most of these Russian attacks thanks to the air defense shield. Seeing this, the Russians immediately ordered the warplanes to attack and sent them to the front. According to local sources, Russian warplanes carried out a total of 13 air strikes on this area. It should be underlined that no damage occurred as a result of the attacks. As a matter of fact, the Ukrainian air defense succeeded in achieving another historic success. It has been reported that one Su-25 and one Su-25 aircraft, which carried out operations against the Ukrainian forces in the last 24 hours, were shot down by the Ukrainian air defense. Main purpose of these warplanes was to destroy the divisions in which the Ukrainian missile and artillery units were located. However, at the point we have reached, we see that the Ukrainian air defense is fulfilling its duty properly. According to the DAR of the Donbass Regional Military Administrations, Russia is moving most of its troops in the southern region to the north in order to compensate for the losses it suffered in this region. Russia carries out most of its operations, especially in the eastern and southern regions, with its air force. Although warplanes form the basis of these forces, in fact, unmanned aerial vehicles are at least as important as warplanes. While Russia is withdrawing from land, Iranian-made Shahid drones continue to strike Ukraine with these systems since the day they were delivered. Especially the Mykolaiv region, located in the south of Ukraine, was the region where Russian unmanned aerial vehicles were most active. Military reports reported that the Russian army conducts operations using these systems every hour. However, the anti-drone units serving in the Ukrainian army have regained control of the Ukrainian skies with the historical success they have achieved recently. These troops, mostly serving in the south of Ukraine, managed to destroy the Russian systems one by one. When Russia first started using the Shahid systems it procured from Iran, the Ukrainians weren't sure how to destroy them. Some soldiers used shoulder-launched missiles. According to some sources, warplanes took off. However, the Ukrainian army, which adapts very quickly to the situation, continues to destroy Russian systems. At this time, a historical report on Russia was published. Vladimir Putin lost more than 1,000 500 officers, including 160 generals and colonels, in the war his army has been trying to wage for 9 months, according to an open-source tally that reflects the findings of other independent investigations. But these figures have not been confirmed in any way by the Russian military. Because the Kremlin is cautious in its statements about the extent of military losses in Ukraine, Russia's last statement on war losses was made in September. Although Russian Chief of Staff Sergei Shoigu made statements that did not seem convincing to anyone, this is the last official Russian data we have. Size of the Russian losses in the war is so great that it is normal for them to try to hide it. However, analysis by the U.S. Naval Analysis Center shows that for every Russian soldier neutralized during the war in Ukraine, 3 to 4 soldiers were wounded on the battlefield. Although Russia has come to a point where it cannot hide its war losses, it is still trying to do so. However, especially the approaching winter season is the biggest harbinger of the increase in losses for Russia. Although Russia tries to use this as an important counterattack, especially against Europe, the strong allies of the Ukrainian army are showing their invincibility against Russia with the message of unity. Dubbed General Winter by some military analysts, this season could be a key factor on the road to victory for the Ukrainian military. Meanwhile, Russia is trying to take steps that will change the course of the war with the approaching winter season. Russian heavy cargo transport aircraft and 124 Rislin and Il-76, owned by the Russian company Volga-Dnepr, have made at least 10 flights from Russia to China in the past 7 days, Ukrainian OSINT Group Defense Express reported. Flight monitoring services have published a report on the regular flights of the Russian heavy cargo air fleet from Moscow to Zhengzhou Airport. Although Russian cargo planes often try to open the transponders to make it difficult to track, it is extremely difficult to hide this trace with the developing technology. Especially in the last 3 months, there has been a strong upward trend in the number of Russian cargo flights from Russia to China. Although it is not known why these planes flew to China, it is highly likely that Russia is trying to procure weapons and ammunition from China. Or Russia may want to buy the J-20 warplanes that China has put into mass production. Because Russia knows that its air units need to undergo a serious revision, especially with the losses in the Air Force. Meanwhile, Ukraine began to accelerate its contacts with Western countries. On the eve of the meeting of ministers of NATO member countries, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said that the allied countries urgently need to increase their weapons production, because the war may prolong in the medium and long term if there is no investment in weapons production. Ukrainian minister noted that the authorities should be realistic and rely less on volatile partners. After Kuleba's statements, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg also appeared before the cameras. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that if Russia wins the war against Ukraine, authoritarian leaders in various countries will give the green light to the use of brute force and the world will be more affected by it. Stoltenberg's most important words in his statements were, "The Russians will not win this war. We will not allow this. Victory to Ukraine. We will continue to monitor the world and especially Ukraine. We'll see what happens in the next few days." We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.